Our next inductee, I've been very fortunate to know since the day he stepped into a ring. This young man was trained by Walter Killer Kowalski. Bigger round of applause for Killer Kowalski. He's still doing it today. He's heavily involved in the project that brought professional wrestling back to Fenway Park for the first time since 1969. He partners with our friends at Dante Luna Media, and he's just a great guy, and he is my good friend, Beau Douglas. Round of applause for Beau. And just watching you grow from when you first started to what you are with your beautiful daughter right there, and your lovely lady by your side, it's humbling. I'm literally thrilled to be up here, but I'm not going to induct you. I'm going to have your best friend induct you. He's the host of the Rundown podcast. He's a fellow announcing brethren. He's a Mr. Everything. If you're running a show, he's the commissioner. He'll ring the bell if he has to. He's a ring announcer. And by the way, he is very, very tall. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jason Stuart.
So, for the first time with the microphone in front of me, I'm actually going to go off a script tonight. I'm here to induct Beau Douglas into the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. And this is proof that if you work hard enough and you dedicate yourself to this business, eventually Joe Bruen will run out of old guys to put in this thing and you will get a call. All joking aside, I've been truly blessed to share a lot of this journey with Beau. I met Beau in high school, and this was right before it became cool to be a wrestling fan. So when you found another fan, you guys stuck together. We met, ironically enough, at a Killer Kowalski wrestling show at Anthony's in Somerville. The show is headlined by Sexton Hardcastle, or Edge, who went on to some other Hall of Fame or something. We both showed up early at the venue that day to try to get in by helping set up. They let us in the back. We ended up unloading the truck and doing security for the show. After the show, we really started talking, and then the whole thing clicked. Little did I know that this encounter would lead to a lifelong friendship, a career in a wrestling business, and ultimately me standing right here. When you think of professional wrestlers, Beau is not the image that pops into your head. I didn't even have to get to the joke. This is great. He looks more likely to be opening up for a boy band somewhere than entertaining a wrestling crowd. He's never had the chiseled physique that you associate with a pro wrestler. He was never the fastest, never the smartest, never even the best politician. What he was the kid from Somerville who never allowed himself an option B. For Beau, it was wrestling or bust. There was nothing else. So Beau made it work however he had to. He knew he would never be happy doing anything else. There would be a hole in his life if he didn't make it work. For Beau, through just making it in the business wasn't enough. Beau needed those closest to him to be with him. And after my plans to maybe get in the ring were ended with a medical diagnosis, I pulled away. I wanted nothing to do with the stories of training and road trips. And as some of you may know, Beau can be a little stubborn. He wouldn't allow me to get away from it. He would always tell me about the latest road stories with Wagner Brown, Jason Rumble, Louis Ortiz, Damon Darkangelo, and so many more. He kept trying to find ways to get me in to do something because he didn't want me on the outside of it. Eventually, when Jason took over NWA New England, Beau talked him into taking a shot on me and making me the voice of the product. That was it. 20 or so years later, I'm still here working shows and just sat next in Gorilla to Louis Ortiz last week. I would have missed out on a huge part and a huge chunk of my life if it weren't for Beau refusing to let me get away from wrestling. See, as accomplished as Beau became as a wrestler, he's a better person. He cares about people in a way very few do, and he has a huge heart. He's tough, he's stubborn, and to be honest, he can be a tough son of a bitch to love sometimes. But once you're in with him, you're in for life. As the years and the miles started to rack up, Beau got more involved in training students at the Belltime Club and ultimately ended up taking over the school. Beau is ensured his mark will be left in New England for a long time to come. His students will tell you he's tough, but almost all of them would ultimately count him as a friend. Through it all, he's taken the lessons he's learned from some of the greats, not just in New England, but in the history of the wrestling business, and he's applied those lessons into his training. Part of that is never forgetting what it's like to be one of the boys. He remembers what it's like to be a young guy in those locker rooms, nervous about how to conduct yourself. He teaches those things to his students, and they're better off for it. For the longest time, Beau's only true love was wrestling. Now, don't get me wrong, there were a lot of girls, and I mean a lot of girls. Dude, all right, when I wrote this, I didn't know Joanna was going to be here. I'm sorry. I say kayfabe is dead. Point is, none of those people ever compared to wrestling. I honestly didn't think anything ever would. Then Beau had a daughter. Man, they say the universe will pay you back one day. And I can't wait to see Beau as the father of a teenage girl. That said, the way he looks at Savannah, it's the same way he used to look when he would talk wrestling, but somehow much deeper. I smile knowing that he will leave that little girl a legacy, that she'll grow up and know that her father left an imprint on this industry. She will know her dad got here at this moment. Brother is a word that gets thrown about in the wrestling business. It's a word people use as a greeting and as a farewell. It's a sign of respect and camaraderie amongst those who trust their lives to one another. In some cases, though, it means even more. In some cases, it means the person who knows what you need more than you do. In some cases, it means the person that never lets you fall through the cracks, no matter how badly you want to. In some cases, it means the person who lets you live with them when home is not an option. In some cases, it's the person that walks you through the nerves before your first date with a new girl. In some cases, it's the guy standing next to you at the altar and almost lighting the church on fire as you marry that very girl. That is a true story, by the way. In some cases, it's the guy your child knows only as uncle. And in some very, very, very rare cases, it's the guy you get to induct into the Hall of Fame. So please join me in inducting to the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame class of 2018, my best man, my best friend, and my brother, Beau Douglas.
Thank you. So you just made it real easy for me. I can keep this short and sweet. First off, I want to start off by, that's the best bet. It's short and sweet, right? Yeah. All right. So first, I just want to start off by thanking Joe Bruen for having me here today, for all of you for getting me inducted, I should say, into this New England Hall of Fame. Rich, yep. I have known you over 21 years. I'm not. And I appreciate each and every one of you in here. In all honesty, I've probably been involved in a show with each and every person that is here in attendance, whether or not working with them, working against them, or even just sharing the locker room. The reason I mention this is I want to thank each and every one of you, because if it wasn't for each and every one of you, this wouldn't happen. This wouldn't work. This wrestling business would not exist, because it's about us all working together to get the point across, to make people be entertained, to make them understand, to make them invest. Everyone knows wrestling is pro wrestling. It's about giving them something different. It's about standing out. And that's one of the things I tried to do over these 21 years. I definitely feel like I've stood out, whether or not for the good or for the bad. And of course, as Rich mentioned, being trained by Killer Kowalski, that's one thing. That's one thing that will always stick with us, is he said to be larger than life, to stand out, to be different. Speaking of being trained by Kowalski, I remember actually in 1995 with Jay Stuart as well as Wagner Brown walking up those creaky stairs that we hear about every year at the Hall of Fame. Walking up those creaky stairs, walking into the building, and then being greeted by the long-haired freak you just heard up here, Ron Zombie. Watching him work hand in hand with Steve King, Freight Train Dan, who's not here right now, wish he was, Tim McNeely, Tony Roy, some of the greats, also Hall of Famers. One thing I want to do is I want to thank them, because if it wasn't for them, I really would have no chance in standing here, because they took me under their wing. Because as Jason said, I wasn't the person you would look at and think pro wrestling. I wasn't the person you would look at and think pro wrestler. Shoot, at that point I was 15 years old. Walter looked at me and he did see something. He let us come. 2 years. 2 years he came. He let us come every Tuesday and Thursday night. And we would sit there and we would watch. And we'd be the little marks or the little fans sitting out there watching all the guys go. Guys like Ron, of course, liking us, making fun of us, dealing with us, helping Walter deal with us, would get us involved. We'd start learning. Then finally, 2 years later, 1997, Walter was done letting us just freeload, and he allowed us to join. Joining at 17 years old, the youngest person to start at Kowalski School, signing that waiver, having my family sign it. And here we are, 21 years later. I'm being inducted into the New England Hall of Fame. It's been a real long road. I appreciate every moment of it. Try not to live with regrets. It's one thing I can tell you that I learned, something I'll leave you with, of course, is to always have fun while you're doing this. If you don't feel like you're having fun, get out. There's no point in doing this if you're not having fun. You gotta stay safe, too. I want to wrap this up, of course, with a bunch of thank yous. I want to thank Killer Kowalski. I want to thank all the Kowalski boys, top to bottom, everybody from Tony Rumble's days with NWA New England. I see Alex Arion standing right there. Sitting right there, I should say. Sheldon Goldberg in the back, who was there all the way through, of course, recently with NECW. I thank Paul Richard, of course, opening the show, adding a lot to what we've been doing with pro wrestling, with New England independent wrestling. Brian Fury for turning out a great product. Aaron Morrison for turning out a great product with the students that they've put through. I want to thank you all again. We learned one last thing, was that everyone dies, but not everyone lives. And pro wrestling has given me the platform to live. So guys, keep on living. Thank you.